Welcome to the Program Design Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Monique, teacher and curriculum writer turned program mentor and business strategist for coaches, educators, and online experts. Whether you're looking to create your first ever group coaching program or scale your current offer for more freedom, revenue, and consistent income, this is the podcast for you. Here you'll find practical strategies and encouragement mixed with a bit of manifestation and intuition to help you grow and design a program you absolutely love. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Program Design Podcast. In this episode, I am diving into visibility, but especially around how to show up and be visible when you are starting to use Facebook ads. So this is part 2 of a series that I'm going to be doing on visibility, because one of the things that I've been surprised and pleasantly surprised to notice is with my clients, a lot of if you're like most of my clients, you're very self-aware. My clients are often very self-aware and they're aware that visibility can be a big block for them, that they're afraid of showing up. What are people going to think of them? Some sort of variation of that. And in last week's episode, I did part 1, how to show up when the visibility fear is holding you back from actually creating your first group program. In this episode, I want to dive into if you're a little bit further along, you've already created your program and you want to start scaling it, and you're thinking about using ads. We did do a whole series earlier on in the podcast, which we'll link up in the show notes, about, I record the episodes and my wonderful Rebecca, who actually edits them, publishes them for me, makes them all polished. So, me and my podcast team with Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca, for you listening. We did a whole podcast series on how to get started with Facebook ads. So I'll link that in the show notes to this episode. But in this one, I want to talk specifically not about the tech and knowing what you need to have in place to get started with Facebook ads. What I want to dive into is the fears around getting started with Facebook ads, around visibility, and how to overcome them. So more about the mindset and the creative or the content for your Facebook ads and how that might be affecting you. Because I just created a 2-day event to get started with Facebook ads for my signature program design clients. And I was especially thinking we would talk a lot about tech stuff, how to get your pixels set up, making sure that it's all working on your landing pages, all that kind of technical stuff, which is honestly quite boring, but very important to make sure it's working. I wanted to talk about creative. Creative is your videos and your reel or your static image. That's all creative, right? I thought we'd be talking about that. I thought we'd be talking about making sure that you're getting an ROI, how to run your ads, all that kind of stuff. But one of the questions that came up that I noticed and that started to spark this series was more around the visibility. Like, what if I get the angle wrong? How do I show up when there are already so many people in my space? How do I stand out? So what your actual creative looks like when you're putting yourself out there into the abyss of the internet. So that's what we're going to be diving into in this week's episode. If you're new to this series or you're new to the podcast, welcome. Thrilled to have you here. You can always jump back to last week's episode if you're creating your first group program. But in this one, I want to dive in and we're going to assume that you have already created yours and you're thinking about scaling it using ads. And again, I'm not going to make a case for using ads as much here. I'm going to assume that you're already on board with maybe the idea or thinking about it. But if you're not sure if you're ready for ads, definitely go back to that Facebook ad series that we'll also link up in the show notes. So let's dive into scaling your group program using ads. The first thing that I notice is there is a fear of getting the angle wrong, or I'm not going to stand out, some sort of fear of I'm going to spend money on ads and they're not going to work because I'm not going to capture attention, basically. So it might have something to do with that for you. And I know that that was true for me because when I started creating ads, so my business right now, I have a 6-figure business and I'm growing it to multi-6 figures this year, pretty much all through ads. I do from time to time, I had someone who just hired me recently who found me on Instagram. A couple of weeks before I was at an event, someone hired me to do some review of her funnels. So sometimes people randomly, organically find me. I had a referral a couple of weeks ago, actually maybe it was last week, It was last week. That Easter long weekend felt very long with my kids, I guess. So I do have people that come in to find me organically, but most of the way that I grow my business is through Facebook ads. And I remember when I first started, I had this thought of like, okay, I want to use ads, but I have no idea what to actually create for my ads and how to structure the ad, like what's going to draw people's attention. And ultimately, I think what was under that was I have a belief of maybe I'm not good at short form content, or I don't know how to capture people's attention, or what can I say that's really going to capture attention. And usually what I find for a lot of us is that if you're listening, you likely have years of expertise that it's hard to know like what to pull out that's going to be interesting because you've been doing this for so long. You have such a wealth of knowledge and like it's your specialty, right? So to know like what to pick out from all of the possible content that you could include that's going to actually like get the right people in and all of that stuff that's going to work. Like it can feel overwhelming, right? But the thing that I want to encourage you with, especially if you've been finding, say like with your organic content, it can be hard to know like if the algorithm's working, like I reposted a post that did really well, I don't know, maybe about a year ago. And I got tons of saves, tons of comments, likes, but a lot of saves. So I knew it really landed for my audience. I reposted it, very similar, the same topic, a slightly different image, and it really just like sunk recently. And I know the content really landed before. So I think it was just like maybe the image was slightly off, or maybe it just didn't hit the way that it did the last time. And so I know that sometimes like organic can feel like that. And it can feel like, why did that work before, but it's not working now? And it can feel a little bit not as predictable as I would say as using ads are. The thing about ads is it gives you great feedback so fast, and it's more within your control. So the way that ads work now, at the time of recording anyway, they're always changing, but they were different when I started using ads years ago. Right now, the way ads work is like, say you put 4 pieces of creative, like 4 different ads up, and you're running them all, and you have like your budget is spread out basically, like you decide on your budget. Say you're spending $40 a day and you have 4 different ads. Your budget will go to the ads that are performing the best. Like Facebook will just figure that out for you. Maybe not right away, but over time, it'll just figure it out, and it will stop spending money by and large on the ones that are not performing as well. And it will spend more of your money on the thing that already is performing. Does that make sense? So you'll know like, people are landing on this, that's getting attention, that's drawing attention. And you can just turn off the ads that aren't working as well. And over time, you're just optimizing. Like it's like this little game. So when I create new ads, basically I'm trying to see if I can outperform the old ads. So I'll have ads that will be running, and then I'll add a few new bits of creative, and I'll see like, will one take off? Will one not? And it's so easy. Like I don't have to be emotionally involved. And like, will this ad work? How will people take this? Like, will this like capture attention? Like, I just need to create a few pieces of creative or a few ads, and then put them out there. And like, Facebook will just figure it out for me. Like, I do not need to stress about that. Honestly, it's hard to kind of predict. Like, I'll create different creatives and I'll think, oh, this one's really going to work. And sometimes it does. And then other ones like that I think are like, so really like take off. Like for me, it's hard to kind of predict, but I don't need to predict it. I can just let Facebook ads do its thing. So what I would encourage you to know is that that's the way that Facebook ads work now, is you create, as long as you have enough budget. Like say like, right, the way that I kind of think about it is if I'm going to have 4 pieces of creative, I like to have like, say like $40 a day, like $10 per ad, like per ad image creative. That's what a recommendation was given to me by someone who is an expert in ads. It might be different in your industry. I know my industry with entrepreneurs is more expensive than yours likely is if you're listening. Like when I worked with teachers, my ads were way, way cheaper than they are now. And that's just how it works, right? This episode, we're not going to talk about recommendations for how much to spend and things like that. What I am going to say is that when you have your spend, as long as you have like a decent amount that will actually like test it properly, Facebook will just tell you, this one's landing, this one's not, you don't need to worry about it. And it will get you that feedback really quickly. And then you'll get to know what content really like lands and what really sparks for your audience. So like, I didn't know that some of the concepts that I teach, like for example, don't teach everything you know, use teach to grow content. I didn't know that that would land so well for people. I just tried it out, and like people have told me over and over, oh my gosh, I fire hose my clients. I overwhelm them with content. I don't know what to include and what to exclude because I have so much that I can share. I didn't know that would really land with people until I just put it out there. And now I know because Facebook ads have told me so. And people have already told me, of course, multiple times, but you'll just get that feedback so fast. So I wouldn't stress about that. Facebook ads will tell you it's all good. The next thing I wanted to chat about is how to find your ad angle. And I think what this kind of comes down to is a lot of us, if you're like me, struggle to kind of condense what we have to say into 60 seconds or into short form content. So for me, like if you give me a few talking points, I can create a podcast episode like I'm doing right now. No problem. If I'm going to run a masterclass, if I'm going to have people to come to speak, run a workshop, whatever, I've got my points. I can talk about it. No problem. Especially when I have people around, like I got that. But trying to condense something into a very short, attention grabby kind of a thing, that's more of a skill. There's a lot of strategy that goes into it. And you can't, generally speaking, just like speak off the cuff for an ad to work on Facebook. Now, that's not always true. You can test it. I did do one a few months ago where I just was like, I'm tired of following all these formulas. I'm just going to try one off the cuff, use some of the content that I know works well and just speak off the cuff and see how that goes. And honestly, just didn't perform as well. I've never had like my organic off the cuff stuff work as well because you need to be able to attract someone's attention quickly and get them watching to the end. And there's just more strategy and planning that goes into making the best use of your like 7, 30-second, 60-second video, right? But what I will say is there are two kind of frameworks or questions that you can ask yourself that will give you an idea of how to start thinking about your ads. So first of all, for me personally, I've had the best results with videos. I've used static images like pictures and I've used videos and I just get the best results from videos, but you test it. You can try static too. Most people say to have a combination. Personally, I've just always found my videos do the best. So I generally spend more on that, but test both pictures and video. But when I think about what kind of angles to use, the main kind of frameworks that I think about is it's not about X, it's about Y, or what are mistakes that people are making. So it's not about X, it's about Y. So I look at things like most people are teaching this, but I actually recommend this, and here's why. So what I would look at with this one, so here's an example. Most business coaches will tell you to sell the transformation. Sell the transformation, sell the result. That's what sells your program, right? Which I agree with to a certain extent. But I also recommend, yes, have your transformation, but also sell with mini result milestones. Because when you can clearly articulate the milestones that people will achieve before they hit the final result, it builds more credibility for you. They can see that you have a clear path for them to follow, that you have a clear process. It's simple for them to understand. It builds trust in you. It builds trust in them. So that's one of my core messages is that I teach the concept of mini result milestones. So it's not about just teaching the transformation. It's also about using mini result milestones to build trust when you're selling your program. And that's why part of my angles, I guess, is that it's not just about the marketing. It's about how you structure your program because that will help you market and sell it as well. So I'm clear on what makes what's my differentiator? What's the thing that makes me different in terms of my thought process or my angles in the business space because of my background in education. And that's the thing that I really lean on. Some people are going to love that. Some people aren't. And that will draw the right people to me because everyone who joins my programs are interested in making sure that their program is well structured and well thought out and that they're going to get great results even in a group setting and not just as they do one-on-one, right? So that is an example of it's not about this, it's about why. So most people are teaching this, but I recommend this and blah, blah, blah. And also as a little caveat here for this formula, I like to have a name for the concept that I'm teaching. So mini result milestones is a word that I basically made up, but it's a combination of a number of different ways of thinking about things. So like it's inspired by multiple different ways of looking at things. Like one of them would be like learning outcomes if you have an education background, but it's not just learning outcomes because learning outcomes are very long and there's tons of learning outcomes that you can have. It's about creating a simplified path for people. But if I just needed to create my own like it's my own IP, my own way of explaining this. So I created a name for that concept, and that draws people's attention when I speak in an ad. So that's the first kind of framework or way to think about your ads. The other one is to look at mistakes that people make and what to do instead. Most people do this, but you should actually do this instead. One of the angles, and here I'm going to ad-lib it so it's not as tight and concise as I would do it in my ad, but one of my top performing ads that always outperforms every new one that I create is about most people inadvertently overwhelm and fire hose their clients with too much content because they're trying to teach everything they know. Instead, what you want to do is use what I call teach to grow content. Teach to grow content is like an irrigation system, and it gives your clients the right amount of content at the right time so they can take action and get results. So here, what I'm saying is most people do this and they're making this mistake. And my clients, my potential clients, are like I said earlier, I heard so many people say, I'm fire hosing. I'm totally doing that. So they're drawn in. And then I say, instead, don't teach everything you know, use teach to grow content. And teach to grow content, again, I just wanted to create something that rhymed with teach everything you know. So I said teach to grow, and I use an irrigation system as a metaphor, but I named it. And so people go, I need to learn more about that because I am making that mistake. Does that make sense? So those are two ways to think about how to frame your content to attract people in. So it's either like saying something different than they usually hear, or like highlighting a mistake that they're making and what to do instead, because then people can go, oh my gosh, I am doing that. What can I do instead? And that can draw people in. The last big idea that I want to share here is, yes, your content matters and your strategy matters, but the thing that really helps you stand out and sets you apart is actually your natural energy, if you can display that or you can portray that in your ad. So here's what I mean. So a lot of us think like, yes, my hook structure, my formula, I need to have a polished, what microphone are you using, all that kind of stuff. And that stuff matters for sure. But the thing that most of my clients have said that actually they remember my ads, and some people remember the content, but it's usually about, again, is how you make people feel, right? When you think about when you meet someone, you remember how they made you feel. And that is what you want to think about when you're creating your ads. Is most of my clients, some of them do remember specifically the ad, which always blows my mind. A lot of people are like, I don't really remember. You just kind of popped up on my feed one day. They don't exactly know what I said, but they know how I made them feel. And that's because my energy came across in the video. And that became my natural differentiator. And the thing was, I didn't actually know that I would have this kind of energy. I created videos, and over time, I know what is my natural kind of differentiator energy because I've gotten feedback from using ads. I didn't know it at the time. But the thing that a lot of people have said, and if you've seen my ads, you maybe you've noticed this, maybe you haven't, but my energy in an ad is generally speaking very warm, very grounded, very calm. And a lot of my clients are drawn to me because they have like all these ideas and they're nervous about things, and they're kind of like in this kind of like stressy kind of energy around their program sometimes, or they have lots of ideas and they appreciate that I have this grounded, calm, structured way that doesn't feel like hypey and over the top, and like it feels different than a lot of ads that they see. Some people want to see those like make 100K months and like look at me with my, I don't know, really expensive bags and all that stuff. Like, I mean, sometimes I'm drawn to those ads because I'm like, oh, what's she saying? I don't know, it's fascinating, whatever. I don't have anything against them personally, but that's not usually my vibe. Some people really dislike them and they're drawn to me, and some people won't like my ads. They'll like the really flashy ones. Like, that's fine, right? And so I lean in on my natural energy. Like, that's the energy that I bring, and I bring that to my ads. And I know that that energy alone will help me stand out in your feed in a way that I don't think that energy really stands out in organic content. I know I can learn more about organic reach and all of that kind of stuff, not my specialty, but I find like I can create like a calm, grounding video for my Instagram feed, and it might get a lot of likes from my current audience, but it won't necessarily grow my audience. Like, it doesn't get shown to a lot of new people, but ads do. Right? So I can just be myself and have my structure, and the energy brings people in. So I want to take this back to you now. How can you really hone in and harness your own energy, because your energy you might have a different energy than mine. You might have like a really creative, lots of ideas, like spark creativity kind of energy, or you might have like a really positive, like go, 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 let's do this kind of energy. You might have a different kind of vibe that you can really lean into. And the way to lean into that vibe, the way that I found the best, is to think about, before you go to create your ad, the first thing is I don't use a teleprompter. I basically memorize my whole script. I'm just going to say it. I memorize my whole script. Sometimes I have done like memorize a state, and then pause, memorize the next one, and then say it, and then kind of like splice it together. But to be honest, I don't like editing. I find it easier just to remember my whole script, say it a few times, and then I get it, and then I roll, because it's only 60 seconds, right? So that works better for me. I used to be a performer, right? Like I have a really strong dance background. I started teaching by being a dance teacher. And one thing we talk about when we're dancing is you want to know your dance so well that you can think about stage presence and you're not thinking about what your body's doing. So integrated into your body that your body just does it, and you can focus instead on like engaging with the audience and like having particular facial expressions and like all your stage presence, right? Like little bits of polish. And so when I'm running an ad, I think of that same concept when I think about it, is I want to know the content well so I can just say it. And instead of thinking about what I'm going to say, I'm thinking about who I'm speaking to. So I imagine the person that I'm speaking to, and I look directly at the camera lens, so it feels like I'm speaking to them. And I don't think about the camera that I'm looking at. I think about who I'm talking to. So usually I like to imagine either a really close friend of mine who I know would be an ideal client of mine, or even better, if you know a client really well, you can imagine speaking to her or them in the lens, and imagine speaking to them, and that can bring out your natural energy of how you would speak to that person. Does that make sense? So you need to be able to get out of like the script and what am I saying next in the strategy, and like have that ingrained already. And then you can bring out your own natural energy by like imagining the person that you're speaking to and speaking to them directly. So when I'm talking about an irrigation system or teach to grow content or whatever, I have said it, like I couldn't do it off the cuff right now, but I have said it so many times that I've memorized it that I can think about some of my like favorite clients when I'm creating my ad that I know would really resonate with this versus the actual content itself. And then my natural grounded energy comes out because I'm being myself rather than worrying about how I look, what my content's going to be, how I'm going to be perceived. I'm not thinking about me. I'm not thinking about my message. I'm thinking about the person I'm talking to. Does that make sense? So let's recap some strategies or how to go about thinking about getting visible with your ads so that you can start using ads. And I mean, honestly, I said I wasn't going to go into the strategy fast, but honestly, they have changed the game for me in my business. Like I really wanted to create a business where I could turn on a button and have like new people coming into my world and then becoming clients. And that literally is what happens. Like I turn my ads on and I get clients every single time because I have a whole repeatable sales system, right? It is truly amazing. But there is a lot that you need to get over before you can use ads. And one of them is like that visibility. Like, how am I going to show up? How are people going to be drawn to me? What if I can't stand out? How do I look polished and professional and all that kind of stuff, right? And so what we chatted about in this episode is first the fear of getting the angle wrong. And that's one of the most common visibility blocks that I've seen. And know that you really can't get it wrong. You just create a few and Facebook will tell you which one's working and which one's not. And you can double down from there. Like it does it for you. You don't need to like predict. We talked about your ad angle and how to think about it. And I shared 2 ways to think about it. One is most people in our industry teach this, but I teach that. And here's why: name your concept. Or most people are making this mistake. Instead, you need to do this. Again, name your concept, and that shows your IP. And then the last comment or the last idea that I shared is about how to use your natural energy as a differentiator by bringing your message and getting to the point where you have your message kind of like as part of you, like you're not worried about what you're saying, what people are thinking. you've already practiced it enough that you can focus more on imagining the person you're talking to. So it brings out your natural energy and you can draw more of your ideal clients to you. So I hope that this was helpful. I would love to hear from you. If it was, leave me a review. If you're listening to the podcast, it would be so appreciated. I would really appreciate it if you could take a moment, leave me a short review on your podcast app of choice, and I will see you on the next episode of the Program Design Podcast.